What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of California Underground. I have back with me Republican candidate and CEO of Traffic, Anthony Trimino. How are you, Anthony?
I'm doing great. I'm actually in Sacramento right now. Have a couple days of meetings and events. It's pretty awesome being out here.
So have you been down to the protest or whatever's going on at the Capitol?
Yeah, so I was at the Capitol yesterday with Church United. I was able to. I'm hearing our conversation.
Let's see.
So weird.
It's weird. Yeah, it shouldn't come back through yours.
Are you able to turn that off?
Let's see. If you check audio on your end.
Yeah, I hear everything that we're talking about just plays back on a delay.
Oh, that is weird. I have never had this problem before, so let's see. I'm trying to see right now. Maybe I can. Does that work or?
No, there's like a 3-second delay, so every time you talk, it then comes back in through the audio.
Okay, let's try something else here. Sorry, everybody who's tuning in. Technical difficulties. This has never happened before, so doing this on the fly right now.
No worries.
Maybe it's this one.
I think whatever you did, I think fixed it.
Oh, did that work?
Yep.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, okay. We're good.
All right, we'll edit that out in the audio podcast. Anyway, so I'm
in Sacramento. Yeah, I was here yesterday with Church United. I was able to meet with them, pray over about 50 pastors from all over California, from San Diego all the way to San Francisco. Met with and had a great opportunity to talk with Shannon Grove. And then we were at Destiny Church last night, and it was pretty amazing. Today I had a couple meetings in the morning here at the hotel, and then I'll be swinging by the Capitol to see how they're doing down there. I hear it's a pretty big crowd before we have an event tonight in Stockton at Campos Family Vineyard. So we're super excited about that as well.
Nice. Stockton, my old alma mater, is there.
Oh, really?
Yes, University of Pacific. So just went back recently to visit, but it's not someplace I'd visit too often. But that's a whole different subject. So the last time we chatted, you hadn't even launched your campaign yet. It was very early in. So I guess to start everything off, how's the campaign been going since we last chatted?
I mean, I've heard from some people that we have built one of the fastest growing campaigns in recent political history in the last 3.5 months that we've been at this. So it's going great. We have support from every county, practically every city in California. The momentum is growing. The whisper got louder, and we continue to press. So we're super excited about the progress we've made and the momentum that we're building. And I think as the election gets closer, people are having a unique opportunity. As candidates continue to speak, continue to hold interviews, you start to identify things that make us all uniquely qualified in different ways and different from each other. And I think that over the last, say, 3 weeks specifically, the more candidates have spoken, the more lines are being drawn between us, the things that make us different, where we stand on critical items. And I think voters are having, thankfully, the opportunity prior to casting their vote, hopefully, the opportunity to distinguish between, who the candidates are and what they stand for.
So what's the number one thing you are hearing from voters as you make your way around the state?
And medical freedom is the most pressing topic and item on the ballot. The medical freedom, the fight, I talk to nurses, firefighters, police officers, parents, and teachers. Everyone is freaking out right now about the, the possibility that we could lose our medical freedoms, vaccine passports and mandates. Even though AB 455 was shelved for a moment, the idea that it could resurface in January is freaking people out. So right now, everyone is most concerned about protecting their medical freedom and electing somebody that will fight to ensure that they are able to retain that right.
So we can always come back to that. I know someone asked a question about that, but I wanted to ask, so you're new to the political world. This is your first foray into politics, correct?
Sure.
Has there been a steep learning curve, or has there been any lessons or stuff that you've been kind of, I guess, like amazed at when you entered the political realm?
No. The thing is that all the things that I've accomplished in my life are a lot harder than politics. Politics isn't really a tangible thing. Politics is really what you portray. Politics is, I'm glad that I don't have a decade or two of political experience, because that's not what we need in California. We don't need more politics. The idea that we're going to send a politician in to fix the problems that were created by other politicians is absurd. So I'm glad I don't have that political background. In fact, I believe that my background better qualifies me for governor than had I been in the political arena. So nothing surprised me, but I was able to confirm a lot of what I knew, that the political arena is ugly, that there's a lot of evil in it, and that we don't need more of it. I'll tell you that.
Just kind of going off that, in terms of the political game that's played and how they kind of gauge who's the front runner, who's not a front runner, did it frustrate you that they wouldn't open debates up to more candidates like yourself to give a wider breadth of options and kind of like new ideas for voters?
I mean, yes and no. So, I'm in marketing, so I understand the value of exposure and visibility. So, of course, I would have wanted the opportunity to be on those stages debating. But honestly, there's what we've been able to do and the conversations that we have. I'll give an example. I can do a political debate, and the audience of that political debate are not necessarily at the end of that conversation detoured in any way. They usually come with preconceived notions. They leave with the same. But you go and you speak in front of, an intimate audience of 200-300 people, or you go to a church and speak in front of 500 or 600 people. And those conversations are way more meaningful. And not only that, the people that you're talking to are way more excited about what they just heard, and they're going to go and tell 2 or 3 other people. And so we've gotten so much momentum because we have been very selective over the audiences that we speak in front of. And, in advertising, there's paid media and earned media. Paid media is what you throw money at, and I kind of liken it to those public debates that you're talking about. Earned media is what you cannot pay for. Earned media is word of mouth, and our entire campaign has been built off of earned media, and that has been the reason why we've been so successful, because we're having the right conversations with the right audience, and they're getting fired up and telling 5 or 10 people who are telling 5 or 10 people. So yeah, politically, I would have loved to have been on some of those stages, but I've been on stages. I've been on stages with all of those candidates, and we've had great success debating them. So,
So assuming, and I'm knocking on wood here, I hope my desk is wood. It's from IKEA, so I don't know if it is actually wood.
Probably particle board, but
probably something like that. I'll take it. It's close enough. Assuming, knock on wood, the recall does not pass next week. You've already announced that you're running for 2022. How does the Trimino campaign pivot from running for governor to now you have to face a Republican primary coming up next winter?
I signed up for that, right? So when we got into this race, it was for 2022. The recall hadn't been certified yet. It was about 2 months in when the recall got certified. So the prize was always 2022. And I'd always wanted to take this from Newsom himself. I'd always wanted to debate Newsom. I always wanted to do battle with Newsom. And so the idea of having a bigger competitive landscape doesn't bother me at all. If you think about what we've accomplished in 3.5 months, and now you give me a 1.5 year runway, there's absolutely no doubt we take Sacramento. So I'm not concerned in any way. The campaign strategy doesn't change at all. But here's what does change. We've had an overwhelming amount of support from people with deep pockets, deep connections, big networks that have said, look, I'm a little apprehensive getting into this battle with you with 30 days until the election, 45 days until the election. But I'll tell you this, if Newsom does not get recalled, we will absolutely 100% circle our wagons around you and we will get you into Sacramento. So I'm super excited about all the support that has been a little apprehensive getting into this so close to the recall. When I go back to all these individuals, I go back to these networks, these supporters, and I say, hey, we have now a 1.5 years to do this. It changes everything. All of a sudden, the popular candidates, that equity that they have starts to diminish, because when you give something like our campaign a 15-month runway, what we can do with that all of a sudden makes popularity insignificant.
So following in that kind of same question, you will be vying off against other Republican candidates who I guess some people call more establishment, more like insiders. What are the main differences you are going to highlight going into that Republican primary to stand out from the crowd, from other Republicans?
So I already stand out from the crowd. For me to have a worthy opponent next year in the 2022 election, that individual would have to be the CEO of a successful company, because that's what California needs. That individual would have to have intimate knowledge of being a family. So it would have to be someone who has a family, who understands at a very personal level what our families are going through right now. That person would have to have consistent conservative values, unwavering consistent conservative values, right? Not teetering. They'd have to be incredibly consistent. There isn't a candidate right now on the ballot that has my qualification. I'm arguably the most qualified candidate to take this role, because I've just from if you think about California as the 5th largest economy on the planet, I'm the only one that started a company from nothing, built it to be one of the most successful companies in the United States. I'm a family man, Christian, hardcore conservative, standing on biblical principles. I have already carved my own path. I've already separated myself from the candidates. So the only thing they fault me for at this point is popularity and name recognition. That is the only thing. And you know this yourself. If you do a side-by-side comparison of all of the candidates, the absolute only thing I have working against me is just name ID. But you give me 15 months and all of a sudden that box gets checked. And I believe that our campaign would be unstoppable.
Well, I can tell you from my followers, I've definitely seen a lot of excitement around your campaign. A lot of people in the comments bringing you up and saying they've supported you or already voted for you. And that's coming out of really, in such a short period of time. So I want to kind of pivot now to talking about the Latino community in California. As a Latino yourself, you've been reaching out to those communities. I know you've been endorsed by Lexit. What's the feedback you're hearing from Latinos in California who typically just vote Democrat by default? And are they kind of open to your ideas and your stances, and what's been the response?
I'm the only candidate that's actually relatable. So, and so many of them have been drawn to my story, my grandfather, migrating from Cuba, my mom's family being Mexican, and, understanding the diversity that exists in California. I think there's going to be a huge awakening. What's happening is there's an awareness happening that didn't exist before. This idea, Hispanics are taught from a young age that the Democratic Party is there to protect them. It's there to, it's the only party that has their best interests in mind. But ultimately, what the Democratic Party has created is a complete and utter dependence on government. And as we go around, we talk at churches, we talk at events, and we have, a great amount of Hispanic following and support. We start to educate them on let's dissect this, let's break this down, let's look at what is actually in your best interest, let's look at what type of government has been oppressive over time, let's look at what type of government is actually going to get you into a position of being independent, not dependent, so that the generations that come after you will have more than you and have better than you. And so I see a huge opportunity within the Hispanic base to really bring awareness. And it's starting in the churches, because by default, a lot of Hispanics obviously are Christian and are Catholic. And so they're hearing our message, because that is, a conduit by which we're using. And so they're being exposed to not only my conservative values, but this whole different narrative about the Republican Party and becoming independent from the government and breaking generational curses and chains. So we're super excited. And again, if we have another 15 months to continue to educate and press in and lean in, I think we could have the biggest amount of Hispanic turnout of any local election.
All right, day one of an Anthony Trimino administration, what are you doing?
So simple. Lift the state of emergency, take power away from local governments to implement vaccine mandates and mask mandates, stop any and all conversation around vaccine passports and verification systems, and lift the mandates on our teachers, our healthcare workers, and our students, so they can go back to work and go back to school. That is absolutely, I cannot wait to get there to do that. And remember, my campaign is less about what I'm going to do and more about what I'm going to undo when I get to office. We're just going to unravel all this mess and give our freedoms and our liberties back to our people. But please note what I said, right? And I'm sure you've talked to other candidates. Many of the candidates running are talking about lifting the state of emergency and lifting the vaccine mandates at a state level. But you know as well as I know, all of those rallies and protests that are happening at schools, school boards, board of supervisors right now, where you have 200, 300, 400 parents showing up protesting against the vaccine mandates, that will still be the reality for all of those parents a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, if another candidate gets into office, because none of them have been vocal about lifting the state mandates at a local level. I've been the only one. I stand alone on that. And that's significantly important, because if you lift the mandate at a state level, we're still going to be fighting at a local level and nothing changes.
So now fast forward after day one, you've been governor for almost a year, heading into 2022. What's the one policy achievement that you would like to have under your belt so that you can go back to the voters in 2022 and say, give me another 4 years because this is what I can get accomplished?
Probably what I'll do for our taxes, and either dramatically reducing them or eliminating the state income tax, so that we can make California the most business-friendly state in the nation. I'm a business owner. Again, we talk about all the time, I lead with medical freedom because I think that's the most pressing issue that exists right now on the ballot. It's the most vital. But you put that aside and assume that we've already accomplished what we need to accomplish. You have a businessman, a CEO in office. I'm looking at taxes. I'm looking at making California business friendly. I'm looking at incentives to keep businesses here and to bring businesses back. I mean, that's what I do. And I can do that better than anybody in the field running right now. And that's what I'm looking forward to most, is being able to say, hey, not only did we tackle in year one the medical freedom crisis, but look at where we are. Taxes, look at where we are. Business incentive, look at where we are as a business friendly state where we weren't a year ago. That's what I want to do. And obviously, simultaneously, I would say that the homeless problem would be as equal, because what we can do in that year would transform California for good. So I'm in Sacramento, and what I'm seeing here, what I've seen in LA and San Diego is disheartening. And I know that in a year we can make not only a significant dent, I believe we can actually reverse the problem.
So on the campaign trail, I'm sure you always get asked like the same questions over and over again: homelessness, water, stuff like that. Is there
Yeah.
any topic that you feel passionate about that is rarely asked of you that you'd like to kind of speak about right now?
Not that's not asking me. It's I have two different audiences, right? When I'm in front of real people, families, business owners, we're talking about medical freedom. When I go to these political panels and discussions, we're talking about water, energy, homelessness. So they're pretty much covered. But I totally see that the plight of our families, moms, dads, people that are just trying to keep their job, the number one topic is medical freedom. In the political circle, where you're talking about they're not necessarily in touch with what our families are going through. It's water, it's fire, it's taxes. But I wouldn't say that there's a topic that is in the back of my mind where I'm thinking, why isn't anyone talking about this? I think we're talking about them, but I think that medical freedom should be talked about more, because that is the fight of our day. That is the hill that we need to be prepared to die on.
Okay. I got a couple questions submitted. Some people ask questions. If you got a couple more minutes, is that okay to ask some
Yeah,
questions?
go for it. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Someone asked, what's your plan for homelessness and cost of housing?
My plan for homelessness is to actually do what I've been saying all along, which is we're going to take state dollars. We're going to fund nonprofits and churches from San Diego to San Francisco. Look, there are nonprofits and churches that are mobilized right now, feet on the street, thousands of people, healthcare workers, mental health workers, social workers, and they're not funded. They don't have funding, they don't have backing, they don't have visibility, and nobody at a state level is giving them the infrastructure to scale. So the first thing we're going to do is eliminate 90% of the jobs. Newsom hired, I believe, on payroll over $200 million a year in salaries for people that were hired to solve the homeless problem. We'll probably eliminate 90% of those jobs and apply that money to actually fixing the homeless problem, working with churches and nonprofits across the state. Housing, as far as housing and the cost of living, that's just a byproduct of regulation. You have people running in this race who are developers who don't even develop in California because of red tape regulations. And we're going to roll that back. That's part of helping to make California a business friendly state again. They go hand in hand. But ultimately, the homeless problem can be addressed at a local level, regional level, with just state backing and getting behind churches and nonprofits who are already doing the work.
Someone asked, you're obviously a very religious individual, and they asked, how will you make others who are not very religious a part of your narrative or a part of your campaign?
Yeah, they're already a part of our campaign. If you've heard me speak live at any time on the subject of my faith, you've heard me say that I'm extremely aware that California is a melting pot. Agnostic, atheists, Muslims, Hindus. It's a beautiful mixed group of individuals that comprise California. And I've said this: you don't have to be Christian to back my campaign, but you're going to want me to be. That's fundamentally significantly important, because you want somebody in office that has a good, strong moral foundation that stands on conservative biblical principles. And so we don't have to agree on religion for you to agree that somebody with good, strong moral values should be in office.
Someone asked, your plan to stop mandates as well as AB 455, 1102, and HR 74, which have been very controversial.
We talked about that, right? So lifting the state of emergency gives us a lot of power. My veto power gives me an enormous amount of power. The fact that, sending me into office would send shockwaves through Sacramento and would put all of these politicians on notice. The fact that we have another election in 2022 and can vote out a lot of these individuals. The fact that I can fire and terminate so many individuals that are advocating for these bills. The fact that I can appoint judges to actually rule in favor of us fighting against some of these bills. There's so much I can do. What's happening right now, the reason why we're facing these issues is because we have a governor in place that's abusing his power against the will of the people. So with me in office, I would be actually exercising that power for the will of the people and fighting against all of these measures. And I can't wait to do that. That's literally the thing I think about day in and day out, is getting there and fighting this fight on for medical freedom.
So there's a question in the chat. What does school choice mean to you? Does the money follow the child? What about charter schools? And how about homeschoolers?
Yeah, school choice. I believe that our school systems are broken. Until we can clean them up and actually give parents faith in our school systems, fighting against critical race theory, sexuality, masturbation being taught in our schools, Antifa ideology being taught in our schools, until we can promise our parents that our schools are safe to send their kids back to. I believe in school choice. I believe the money should follow the kid. I believe that wherever you want to school your child, because you've made that decision, that your tax dollars should follow wherever you decide to have your children schooled, even at home.
So I think that's all the questions that I've had and people have been asking. Is there anything else you would like to, sort of with less than a week to go, sort of a closing argument that you would like to make?
Yeah, I mean, think about California, fifth largest economy on the planet. We're not just electing a governor, we're hiring a CEO. Just look at the qualifications of all the candidates running. Who do you want as CEO of California? It should be somebody who has actually built a company, a successful company, over a period of time and sustain that. We also want to make sure that we elect somebody that understands what we're going through as families, that has a family, that has skin in the game, somebody that understands what our churches are going through, and that will protect our First Amendment, Second Amendment. As you start to look at those critical issues, medical freedom, our churches, our businesses, running California like a business, family, children, schools, if you start to identify all those critical topics and start to insert candidate one, candidate two, candidate three, you'll realize that there's a clear distinction between the people that are running. I hope that you find that I check more boxes for you than others. I hope that you come out, vote yes on question number one, vote Trimino on question number two. And hopefully this recall goes in our favor. Hopefully we can recall Newsom, restore some order to the republic, instill some faith back in our families, our businesses, and really have somebody advocating for medical freedom. I am that person, so I hope that I can earn your vote. And if in fact this doesn't go our way and we find ourselves with Newsom in office come September 15th, get ready for an even bigger fight. Get ready to get behind what I believe to be a history-making campaign as we continue pressing forward towards Sacramento in 2022.
Great. So for people listening, where can they go find out more about you, support your campaign, and all that?
Sure, AnthonyTrimino.com, AnthonyTrimino.com, or on social media, Trimino. I connect. I still, if you DM me, I respond. It may take a while, but I'm very active and engaging. So reach out to me and support us.
Great. Well, Anthony, thanks for coming on. Best of luck on the final days of the recall campaign, and stay safe out there, okay?
Right on. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate you.
All right.
Take care.
Later.